back to another episode of Open Shutter. I have the pleasure of welcoming GJ to the program,
Hello.
live from
Hello.
the
Thank
Toronto
you for
area. So
having me.
thanks for taking the time to jump on this thing, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. We were just chatting offline about a whole bunch of stuff, so we could definitely get into a whole variety of topics. But maybe for the people that don't know who you are, maybe just like what do you want people to know about you?
My name is GJ Verellen.
Yeah,
I'm a commercial and fashion photographer based in Toronto, just outside of Toronto.
yeah,
I shoot fashion, uh, commercial. I shoot product,
okay.
model tests, a little bit of everything, as you should as a photographer. Weddings over the summer. So yeah,
Wow,
that's pretty much it.
cool, man.
Yeah.
So what do you like doing more though?
Ooh, I think
Like,
that. Oh,
if you had to pick something to
if I have to pick something to
yeah, like what do you
continue at,
what's your thing that kind of like gets you all
oh,
like jazzed up?
fashion, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
100%. It is the most, I think, creative and technical outlet that there is,
Mhm.
within photography for me, at least. It allows me to work with other people and I get to network. I like being around other people, around other creative minds.
Mhm.
Fashion also doesn't really have rules to their photography.
Mhm.
There's our trends that you can see throughout the years and stuff, but there's not really a specific rule on how to shoot that. Similar how or comparatively to how it is to like landscape is very
Right.
I find that a little bit more set in a box. I find weddings to be a bit more set in a box because it has to be a bit more documentary because you're
Mhm.
photographing something else, you're flying on the wall. And I think that as a fashion photographer, you can input so much of your own personality and so much of your own creative vision into work, not just on the creative side, but also on the technical side. I find it such an interesting and fun challenge to shoot.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll look at images back from the 90s or and then try to emulate that with what I have now or with techniques from now, uh,
Mm.
contemporary techniques, or I'll limit myself to be like, hey, I want to shoot this big project, but I personally only have two lights.
Right.
How do I start? How do I do that? What do I need to do? How am I going to bounce light? How am I going to take away light? What am I going to do here that is going to look as if it was shot in a huge studio, even though I'm in a very small apartment?
Mhm.
And that technical challenge as well as the creative play is such a fun little dance you have to do,
Right.
that I find very enjoyable. I find weddings fun, but it is, uh, for that time being, it's super fun to do. It's fun to document, but it isn't necessarily what I would pick.
Right.
Landscapes, fun, and it's a very meditative state and a very therapeutic sense that you're
Mhm.
by yourself or maybe one other person, and you're really taking your time. But again, I wouldn't be able to do that all the time. I need the human interaction and the play and the creativity to really create something that is interesting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think for weddings it's also like you're working for someone else. Like
Mhm.
you're kind of like getting the shots that they want, not really what you want sometimes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
does that make sense? You know?
I find with weddings, it's you have a few set shots that you need to take for 100%,
Mhm.
and anything else is extra.
Mhm.
And if those extras don't work, you're okay because you still have the backup,
Sure.
the basic stuff, or like the must shoot
Yeah.
stuff. And I find that it's still great. You're still working with people, but it's not as creative. You're a fly on the wall.
Right.
Still fun to do. Love weddings. They're fun. Who doesn't like going to a wedding, right?
Well, I like going. Like I'm not sure if I like shooting it though. Like that's
Fair
the
enough.
thing. Like where's like
Fair
the
enough.
open bar kind of thing, you know?
That makes sense. That's fair.
Right.
That is fair.
But this is what you're talking about, eh? On your
Yeah.
Instagram. Cool,
Hmm.
man. Like
Yeah. That
really
is
cool stuff. Really
that's some
cool
of my
stuff.
work right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of that work that you see within that like 9 grid already is either 1 year, 2 years old. Some of it was taken
Okay.
over the summer. Some of it was taken back in 22.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, it's a lot of color. I've gotten used to shooting a lot more color and being a lot more, I guess, I don't know if graphic is the right word,
Hmm.
um, but a lot more bold, I would say, with the way I shoot and the way that I color things and the way that I am particular about it. I used to be really bad at it, or not bad, but just not as impressive.
Right.
And then it is, I, I looked at like some a clip from Annie Leibovitz explaining her color theory,
Mm.
and it was so simple the way she broke it down. It was just look at the color wheel and
Right.
use 2 to 3 colors max. Or looking at design, for instance, where you have like the 60-30-10 rule, I think it is 60-30-10, or is it 50-30-20? Yeah, 60-30-10. Use a majority of one color, secondary, and then just a touch of something else. And that usually has worked for me a lot more. And it
Mm.
was so simple when she said it. I was like, why did I not? It was such an
Keep
easy.
it simple. Less is more, man.
Yes, exactly. That's what it was. Where I was like, how did I not think of how simple this is?
Yeah.
Why did I complicate it? And then the
Mm.
moment I started to simplify things, I was like, this makes a lot more sense. This is now the work that I like 10 times more compared to what I was shooting half a year ago.
Sure.
So it was like, damn. That's what I found with photography as well, as a lot of it is just usually the simplest answer
Right.
is the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess we're always trying to, in our minds, we're trying to like get these hero shots, and we think it has to be this like massive production, and I think we do tend to overcomplicate it sometimes, where it's like, no, just less is more. Keep it simple.
Oh, 100%. I
Take it
think that,
slow. Slow it down.
yeah. Yeah, I think that the best thing to start off with within photography is like, hey, buy a camera, buy
Mhm.
one lens that is not a zoom lens, like a prime,
Okay.
go out and shoot it. And then it's so simple because you're so limited, but you can achieve such good work if you just understand your camera and understand light.
Mm.
You don't have to overcomplicate things. Like, is it great to have big studios? Awesome. It definitely helps. But is it
Yeah.
needed and is it crucial for your work?
Right.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Depending on what you do, sure, but you don't need it to make amazing photos. Yeah.
What do you think is like the most critical to get it to get a great photo? Like, what's the one thing you absolutely need?
Oh, wow.
It's non-negotiable.
Like,
Light.
regardless, your styling can be a little off, right?
Mm.
It happens. The makeup can be a little off. You could use a makeup artist that maybe not be as experienced, or a model with, who has an issues with skin, but you can mask 75% of that
Right.
with light. Um, if you have a good stylist, a good makeup artist, and you have really bad lighting, everything else in that photo is going to look bad.
Yeah.
And that's coming from someone who shoots a lot of fashion. Someone who, like, I also shoot, travel here and there whenever I go, some street photography. And again, I look at where the light is hitting, what looks interesting to me. How are the colors coming out? How are the shadows coming out? Am I looking for a high contrast scene? Am I looking for a soft light? Am I looking for a hard light? Stuff like that. I think that is what makes or breaks an image 100%. You could have a beautiful model with beautiful clothing, amazing makeup, with a huge team of hair and makeup and production. But if the lighting is not there,
Right.
your image will not look good. And I think that that is what a lot of photographers, when starting out, fail to realize, or don't realize it yet, because they think that they need a good camera. They think they need a good lens. They think that they need to get XYZ to become good. If you don't understand how light is hitting your subject, or how it can enhance, there's no point.
Hmm.
I think that that is the one thing you have to learn, and the only thing kind of that you can really hone in on. And with super limited equipment, you can make beautiful photos
At home too.
At home, 100% at
Sure.
home. You can do it in
Yeah.
your garage, you can do it in a small
Mhm.
room. I've
Yeah.
shot some portraits in, like, a small Toronto apartment, and they're known to be little shoe boxes, like a little
Sure.
corridor, basically,
Yeah.
right? As long as you know how to bounce the light around and are able to modify it, you're good.
Mm.
But you need to learn how to do that first.
So how does one learn? You went to school though, right? For like
Yes,
for like for like fine for like fine art photography, right?
yes. I
Yeah.
went to Ryerson
Right.
University, which is now called Toronto Metropolitan
Yeah.
University,
Yeah.
for fine arts and photography studies.
Right. And they
Uh,
taught you light.
um, it taught me that light is important. Um, Toronto Metropolitan University is a university, so they teach more theory and they teach
Mm.
more about talking about images.
Mm.
There are classes that you can take to really learn about lighting,
Yeah.
but you do need to realize that it is a university level.
Mm.
It is more theory. It is heavier on the theory than it is on the production. You still produce and you still are able to go in a dark room and use 4x5 film sheets and use amazing lighting setups, but it is still university.
Right.
Um, I learned most of my lighting from assisting photographers,
Hmm.
being on set, sending emails, being like, "Hey, do you want to meet up for coffee? Are you shooting a creative that I could help on? Is there anything that you would suggest to learn?" Stuff like that. Videos on YouTube, the
Sure.
internet. It
Yeah.
is a source of information that is free. On YouTube, there are plenty of photographers who share their experience and to share their skill. Some more skillful than others, and some more entertaining than others, and
Right.
some more talkative and really explaining in depth, and some, gatekeeping a little bit. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of information out there. I also think that, and this goes back to what we had a discussion on before we started, but shooting, being
Yeah.
active,
Mm.
and photographing. Um, and I think a funny way to learn light and how it affects a photo from an emotional standpoint is to go into the mirror in your bathroom and have your lights out, grab your flashlight, and just put your light around you to see how light hits the face. If it's from a far angle, from a further distance, what does that do? How does that affect the face? If I'm really close and really harsh, I produce harsh shadows here. If I'm far, it's really soft. Or
Mm.
it's harsher. Sorry, if it's closer, it's softer, but it's also the shadows are harsher. So you have to kind of figure out how to do that. And I think that sorry, uh, with doing that in the mirror by just looking and seeing is probably the best way.
Right.
Start learning, start theorizing, then shoot it, and then look at what went bad.
Mm.
Backwards engineer um,
Yeah.
your shoots.
It's so
Look at,
simple using your phone for your phone flashlight. So is that what you did?
kind of, yeah. I started doing
Yeah.
that. One of my friends taught me that, or like said it as a joke. Be like, dude, look what I did in the mirror. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, yeah, sure. Me
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
all dumb and like young, I started doing it too. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is actually okay. So if I light it here, this is interesting. But if I put another light here, this is so I was just dancing in my bathroom with like two flashlights. It was really weird. But then when I got to like the actual shoot
Yeah.
and I was able to like put the lights, people were like, wow, like that, you know what you're doing. Because I looked like an idiot like 2 days before that.
Yeah.
But it's
Well,
yeah, really understanding lighting has been like the number one
yeah.
thing to produce good work. You can go outside, like the sun, for instance, you have amazing light there. If you go in the shade, you can create beautiful portraits. You can create beautiful work, product photography. You don't need a studio. You don't need lights. You have the sun. As long as you know how to
Yeah.
modify the sun, or rather work your way around the sunlight. You can't really modify that. You are able to then create good work.
Sure.
But it is understanding and learning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also like being self-aware of like how you learn because everyone learns different.
Yeah,
Like,
that's why
you know,
I do it the way that I do it, and I
yeah.
know that it's not It doesn't work for everybody. Like putting a flashlight to your face in the bathroom sounds really gimmicky, and some people won't do that because it's whatever, and some people will. And if there are people who watch this and can learn from it
Your
and try
whole
it,
You're gonna
please
start a
do.
trend, man. You're gonna
That would
start
be
a
awesome.
trend.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, if you don't do it, that's fine too. As long as you find a way to learn it, I find photography and creative work like this is so um, personal that
Yeah.
everyone has their own way of achieving the same goal.
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, I was saying offline how when you're doing something for like a long period of time, you don't really think about the steps. You just kind of do it. But
Yep.
once someone asks you, "How do you do this?" you actually have to think from A to Z of how to get this project done. So I think it's just a good like project for people to kind of go through the motions and say, "Okay, how do I actually do this now?"
Yeah,
Because you'd be
100%.
surprised at how much you actually do sometimes.
Yeah, like most
Yeah.
of the stuff that I shoot now when I do portraits or events, I'm like, yep, automatic. Like I go into
Yeah.
auto mode
You just
and
go. You
whatever.
just go. Yeah.
Yeah, I just go.
Yeah.
Do I make mistakes? Of course. Like I'm not saying
Yeah.
that I'm perfect and I know what I'm doing and I know 100% what I'm doing. Sometimes I still have to adjust and stuff, but you just do after a while.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is by, well, doing it
It's
and
the
failing.
only way. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
watch all the videos out there, man, until you actually start doing it. Like you don't
Yeah.
really know what's involved, right? It's kind of like driving the car. You got to drive the car to learn how to drive. Until then, I mean, it's kind of pointless a little bit. You gotta drive the car, right?
Yeah, you gotta learn how to do that. You can't just
Yeah,
say, "Hey, you're gonna take a photo of this and you're
yeah,
gonna light it XYZ," and you put your light at 45 degrees, but you wanna use an octa-box and you wanna
yeah.
use a 24-70 lens for that. And people will be like, "Well, how okay."
What? Octo what?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, "But what
Octo
does that
what?
mean?" If
Yeah,
you've
what does
never
that
done
mean?
it before. Exactly. I
Yeah,
find it's
octo what?
very it's a very funny way to be like, "Well, you just shoot. You just go out there and
Yeah, it just seems very dismissive a little bit. Like,
yes.
just go do it. Like, it's easy. Just go do it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
but but
But
but
the thing it's a very like it's a catch 22 because like it is simple to go out and just do it because the
mhm,
action of doing something is one thing, but then learning and doing it right is the other thing.
yeah.
You can go out there and like I started my studio lighting during COVID,
Mhm,
right? Like I went through my university was basically just online education because of the pandemic.
mhm.
So I learned a lot of my lighting at home, and I just asked my sister to sit in
Nice.
and be like, "Hey, please just bear with me for like
Shout
an
out
hour
your
or
sister.
two."
Alright.
Yeah, thank her for that. It's her birthday, so please, thank you.
Today?
Yeah, today. So
Oh,
happy birthday.
and you're here? Oh,
She,
man.
yeah, she doesn't live here. She's, yeah.
Yeah.
We already celebrated it.
Okay, alright.
But she would sit in, and I would take photos. And the first few days sucked, but and then after like an hour or two, they started getting really good for the level that I was at. Right. If I look at it now, I'm like, but comparatively, it got a lot better. And that was because I was shooting, but I was very intentional with what I was shooting.
Right.
You can't just go out and shoot a photo shoot because you want to take photos.
You need a
Great.
plan.
Yeah, you need a plan. You need to
Right,
know what you want. You
right.
need to know how to get there,
Yeah.
what you are looking for specifically,
Mm,
and then you go and then you shoot.
mm.
I find it indeed very dismissible to be like, go out there and shoot. But indeed, go out there and shoot with a plan.
Right.
Be intentional about what you do.
Mm.
And then it'll all fall in place eventually. It's easy to say, but it's go shoot with an asterisk.
Yeah. So how does one be intentional? Like, is it more of just like finding kind of like your voice, like what your work like for you, like what do you want your work to be known for, kind of thing? Is that kind of like your like intention with it?
Um, to answer your question about how does one become intentional is be very stubborn with your idea.
Mm,
Um, know what you want to shoot, whether it is your end goal within this in 10 years, 5 years, within a year, or just the end of this project. I would like to achieve images or photos that look like XYZ. I would like to achieve photos that might work in this magazine, or for this client or for that client.
Mm.
You can't just go out there on a whim and be like, I want to take photos in the studio with lights because it's fun. It's like, no, learn, like it's fun. It's fun. It is.
Yeah.
But learn, be like, hey, have an intention behind it. Do you want to learn and do you want to shoot in studio because you want to learn how to use strobes? Do you want to learn we want to shoot in studio because you want to learn how to direct a model?
Mm-hmm.
What is your end goal at the end of your shoot
Mm.
that you want to learn? Is it images you want to achieve?
Interesting.
Directing that you want to hone in on?
Mm.
Is it a new lens that you'd like to try? Don't just go out to create. Go out there, create with an intention.
Yeah.
It's so easy to make beautiful photos, and I've caught myself on this plenty of times where I shoot beautiful images and I look back at it and I'm like, I just wanted to shoot that photo. I didn't necessarily have a plan. It's a beautiful photo, but it's not, it just stands by itself. It just doesn't do anything. And your second part of your question, where I want my work to be, or my intention is to, I wrote down, I asked, actually, sorry, let me rephrase this. I asked a bunch of people that I work closely with, and even people that I don't work closely with, agencies, models, fellow photographers, or just friends of mine that are not in the industry. And I asked them, how would you describe my work? Give me 3 adjectives. And I wrote them all down, and the baseline of similarities and synonyms that I got, and the most reoccurring words were timeless, elegant, and elevated.
Wow. How'd you feel?
Great, because that's exactly what I'm being inspired by.
Oh, from other people?
Yes, from other people.
From other photographers. Interesting.
Yes, from other photographers.
Wow.
When I look, photographers that I assist sometimes, photographers that are no longer around, but whose work, like Peter Lindbergh, for instance, is one of my favorite photographers. And it's such a cherry-picked example, of course, because he's like the master of fashion photography.
Yeah.
But a lot of his work was just black and white film photography using natural lighting. He did use a lot of strobes and he did use a lot of this and that. But just his natural lighting is just so simple because he was a master at it.
Yeah.
Right? And his work then becomes timeless and elevated and elegant. And then I look at more contemporary work of other photographers and photographers from all around the world, and I'm inspired by that. I try to use that in my work. And then when people set those 3 words, elevated, elegant, and timeless, that is now what I strive to be, because other people have defined my style for me.
Wow. That's wild, eh?
Yeah. Don't try to do it yourself. Oh, sorry. It'll happen. It'll happen. It took me years and years and years of brooding, thinking like, okay, well, I want my reds to look this specific hue. I want my images to look this way. I want my shadows to be this way.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Because then everything looks the same.
Right.
And now I just wanted my work to fall in the categories of timeless, elegant, and elevated. And that's it. If it can adhere to 2 of those, awesome.
Every time you go out, that's kind of like,
that has now become
kind of your mission, right? Every time. Interesting.
Exactly. That has now become my intention, because it now because I now feel comfortable and good with that direction.
Wow, that's cool.
But those words are very ambiguous, right? Timeless.
Subjective. It's subjective to everyone. Yeah.
Exactly. So if my style even then still changes, the way, as I said, like I've become a lot more colorful in my work, a lot more graphic, it's still timeless and elegant, right? It doesn't have to be, just because you set those 3 words doesn't mean that you now have to stick into this one lane. Your work is always changing. I've struggled with it for so long to find my voice. And there are plenty of photographers that are like, yeah, I'm struggling to like find my voice, until somebody else points it out to you. And you need that third pair of eyes, or like that second pair of eyes, that third person to look at your work and say, this is what it is, or this is what I think it is. Because you're just having an internal dialogue with yourself. Otherwise, the whole time thinking like, is this good enough? Is this the direction I want to go? Is this right? Does this feel the way I want it to feel? And once you have another person look at your work and say, this is what I think, and the majority of people say that, then you're like, hey, maybe this is indeed my style. This is indeed my niche. This is indeed the way I want to go.
Yeah.
Now I have to be intentional about that. But there's this beautiful ambiguity that I can play with of like, well, I can make lighting a little bit more trickier or more interesting. Or maybe I'll just open the window and use a natural lighting for once. There's this room of play that I've created around my work. But if you see an image, or now if I see an image, I'm like, yes, this is exactly my work. This is my style. And if someone else, somebody else might look at it and be like, yes, this is his work. This is his style.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're always our own worst enemy too, right? We always I think sometimes double guess ourselves in terms of our ability or our talent or the goals that we can achieve. I think we sometimes put limits on ourselves sometimes, right? So if you ask other people, especially people that are objective and not biased, like you did, you can get a clear understanding of like where your work actually is.
Yeah, I think that creatives, because you're looking at your own work the whole time, it just looks the same. Yeah,
it's the same, and you're just stuck in your head like, I guess this is it. And then meanwhile, somebody else may have a totally different thought process about your work. It's like, I never thought about that before.
Yeah, like there's a lot of work that I'm sitting on because I personally think I'm like, I'm not super happy with it. But then when I show other people, they're like, oh my God, that's beautiful. That's great.
Right?
And
it happens all the time.
Yeah. Because I'm like, you're your own worst enemy.
You are, though. But you are, though.
You are. And especially in the creative field, because it's not like how accounting or science is like, hey, if you're right, you're right. Good job. If you're wrong because there's a mistake. With creative work, it's like, hey, you can make a mistake that you might find wrong, but somebody else might look at it and be like, I actually like that.
Yeah.
It gives me the feeling of XYZ, or it shows this, flawless or flaw, this mistake that highlights it and makes it more human sometimes. And I can sit there and be like, yep, thanks. Good,
totally on purpose.
Great, I did that. Thank you.
On purpose.
That was me. I put so much thought into it that I made it like that. Yeah, I find creatives are their own worst enemies.
It's just part of the game, man. It's just part of the course. Like, I think as artists, we're always trying to like achieve perfection. Sometimes, we always want to get it just perfect. I think that perfection just really limits ourselves, because we can never really just kind of be happy with what we've done. Because there's always, like you just said, there's that mistake, there's that thing that we want to change. And every time you look at it, it's like, oh, there's that thing again. But meanwhile, sometimes the mistake is what makes the art sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
It's not perfect. This is done by a person.
Yeah. I think that is something that I have to catch myself on that as well. Like I'll go into a photo shoot, and I particularly am very, as I said earlier, I am a stubborn person when it comes to my creative work.
Yeah. Okay.
And that could be to the detriment sometimes of myself, but also usually it's like, hey, I have this vision and I would like to create this vision or conceptualize it and bring it to life. And if I've had shoots where I'm like, I'm not happy with how I lit it, or I'm not super thrilled with the styling, I'm not super thrilled with the makeup. So I've had to reshoot a couple of things because in my head, I'm like, this is not how I envisioned it. This is not what I wanted to do. But then when I show others, they're like, yeah, no, this is fine. Like, this is great. Because in my head, it wasn't.
You had this other thing in your head, man.
Yeah,
you wanted to get.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
But then
I know.
And I'm like, well, I have to catch myself thinking like, okay, maybe I had an off day. Maybe 40% was all I could give. And I gave 40%. So I gave everything that I had for that day. I gave 100%. of the energy that I had.
Mm.
And I have to be okay with that. Sometimes when you create work, it can be really bad, and sometimes it can be really good. And there's this nice balance that you have to walk in between, that I have come to realize that the sentence, this too shall pass. You make a bad photo, you make a bad work, or work that you're not super happy with, that's okay. You have so much more time. You can take another X amount of photos, and there will be a good one in there.
Right.
You can have a really good photo shoot, but just remember, this is your one good photo shoot. It could go down the next one. Just cherish what you have, love those images, take it to heart, and move on to the next thing. Because in creative work, you're always changing, you're always thriving, you're always uh, uh, using new techniques, or doing something different. And that, like, that playfulness is kind of what I think allows you to be more okay with making mistakes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you still have
Also,
to catch yourself with that
yeah.
negative thought.
Yeah. I think also like I think the more that you're playful, the better your results will be because you're putting less pressure on yourself. Because
Mhm.
if you put so much pressure on yourself to get these amazing photos in your head and you don't get them, it's just like you just don't feel good. And you kind of lost that playful spark about like why you're even doing this thing in the first place. Like, you know,
Yeah, 100%.
right?
Sometimes I'll
Like,
go in the studio and be like, guys, like, if I'm shooting a creative, right? Nobody's getting paid, but everyone's doing this for images for their book. The model's getting it, makeup
mhm,
artist, stylist, etc. I sometimes will just go on set and be like, guys, let's just have fun.
right?
And if we have fun at the end of the shoot and the images are like, okay, they're not bad, I would say that that's a successful day, because my goal was to have fun and experiment. But you need to make sure that everyone knows ahead of time, hey guys, I just want to try this lighting setup. I just want to try this new modifier, this new lens, this new camera, whatever. I don't like, keep your expectations to, let's just have fun. Let's just create
Yeah,
what we create with. Let's synergize our creativity. If you come up with something, that's awesome. If not, that's okay. We had
yeah,
fun doing it.
yeah.
And there's a fine balance that photographers need to find between doing paid work, which is
Mhm,
sometimes the fun is gone because it
mhm,
becomes a job,
mhm.
and finding time for you to do either a personal project or a project that you've wanted to do, or just fun, just to at least find joy and to find another spark in your photography or in your creative work. It doesn't have to be photography, to allow you to become better.
Yeah.
And if you have like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give myself a week roughly of playtime to work on a project. 100% you will come out of that a better creator. You're going to make mistakes along the way, but your mistakes are worth nothing. There's no stakes.
No stakes. Yeah,
You
exactly.
just become better.
Yeah.
It takes time, and it takes a lot of realization to just sit there and reflect and be, hey, these images may not be great. What is it that I can do to change it for the betterment of myself and for my creative work? Not
Yeah.
necessarily, damn, these images are bad, I suck. Because that, it happens.
It happens
It happens all the time, but you have to
all the time.
try to catch yourself.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned about like kind of working on personal projects along with like paid work because I mean I think if you only do the thing if you get paid, you're gonna
Mhm.
burn out pretty quick because then, like you said, it becomes a job. Like you kind of like I said, you lost that playful spark that got you in this thing in the first place, and then it just becomes a thing where you got to show up and
Just
do
your
some work
job.
for somebody, and it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah. Like, you can
Now
be
what?
freelance, but if you're always only shooting commercial work, or like work that is being paid, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
great.
But then like now what? Like you're
Yeah.
just, you're just sending invoices waiting to get paid and you're not thinking about doing stuff for you, which I think is just, I mean, it's just like don't do that because you're gonna limit yourself as an artist because now you want to do different things, you want to push yourself, you want to grow new skills, and that may not come with paid work because they want you to be in the box. Here, do
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I find a lot of photographers, they will use their downtime,
Yeah,
because a lot of the commercial work comes in kind of seasons,
yeah,
where like the end of the year around the holidays it just really slow.
mm,
Then in August it gets slow again, but in between August and the new year and the new year and August it gets pretty hectic.
yeah,
But there is time downtime, right? And I've seen a lot of photographers who use that downtime
mm,
to either, if they have new equipment or if they have new lighting setups that they would like to try, they use that. And then if it's really successful, they use it on a commercial set.
yeah,
Because a lot of commercial clients that I've seen is, hey, we just want to make sure it's safe because it sells.
yeah,
And that's perfectly okay because it's a company thing. It's more of a, it's commercial stuff.
yeah,
The really artsy out there lighting, not all companies are going to want that. You're going to
no,
have a few artsy clothing brands that are very interested in it, but it's a handful.
yeah,
So you have to learn how to use techniques of that and use it to your benefit in the
yeah,
commercial setting.
yeah. But also there again, you're working for the client, so whatever
Yeah.
they want, you got to do. That's not really, hey, I got these great ideas. That's great, but we want to do this.
Yeah, you can always suggest it and be like, I have this idea, but at the end of the day,
They-
the person who pays your bills is a person
yeah,
who's gonna have to who's gonna have be in
yeah,
charge.
yeah,
They say, hey, we just want really natural light to come through, and that's it.
yeah, yeah.
All right,
Guess we're doing that.
guess we're doing that. I
Guess
know a
you
lot
want
of
to look that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I know photographers who are like really creative and really technically skilled, and their
yeah.
clients are just like,
No.
yeah, just like one light is fine. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
great. But you're
Yeah.
paying, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
Like we as artists, we're like, we have all these great ideas, and I have this vision board, and it's like, well, no, we just want to do this. What?
Yeah, we want to be okay because we want to be safe.
Yeah, they want to be safe. They need to. They need.
Yeah,
They,
and it
they need to
sells.
sell stuff. Of
It's
course.
fine. I
Makes
understand.
sense.
I get it. From if I was in their position,
Yeah.
I would do it too because you want to stay to a certain brand and identity, just
Right.
like a photographer wants to stay true to their style,
Exactly.
right? You have that clash where you have to find that middle ground, and your downtime, I guess, or your creatives and test shoots or lighting tests, that's where you can have fun. And that's where you really learn, and that's what
Yeah.
feeds the soul, I've noticed.
Yeah.
While a lot of the rest is just do the lighting setup that we ask and
Sure.
we're happy.
Yeah. Well. So what's for people that want to get into like paid work, do you have any advice for people to like start getting gigs?
Put yourself out there as much as you can.
Okay.
Um, because photography, and especially now in social media is a blessing and a curse,
Mhm.
in the sense that you can put your work out there for free, you can market yourself for free, you can post videos, you can post images, you can do TikToks, whatever, short form content,
Mhm.
but so can every single other person who has access to the internet and access to a phone. So your competition increases a lot more, um,
Mhm.
but community thrives more. You get to connect with more people and you get to learn skills from others. The
Yeah.
best thing to do is put your work out there
Okay.
and pitch yourself. A lot of people, myself included, that start out are nervous because they don't want to be overbearing and be like, "Hi, I'm a photographer. I would like to take photos. Could you let me, please?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I get that. I would take like a brand would come to me, a small brand would come to me. I would take their photos and I would charge like an apple and an egg just because I'm like, I'm so glad that somebody's paying me for my work.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through that. That's totally okay. Don't feel bad about it or like putting yourself down for it. But you gotta find work that is one aligned with your work that you'd like to shoot. If you are a if you're very interested in fashion, and if you are interested in clothing and uh, more specifically athletic wear,
Mhm.
reach out to local athletic companies. Shoot a lot of the athletic wear stuff that you have. This can be ranging from like tracksuits, shoes, equipment for the gym. There's a whole section or a whole sector that you can actually venture into per photography. If you are a photographer, you love documenting work and you love storytelling, reach out to wedding photographers. Try to be like, hey, I'd love to assist. I'd love to learn. Reach out to wedding photography companies that do it.
Yeah.
Reach out to them and be like, hey, I want to learn. I want to work. You're going to get work assigned. You're not going to be paid super, like a lot of money at first, but at least you get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
If you are somebody who loves shooting sports and who is like, you are a big fan of hockey, this has been your life dream to like work with the Maple Leafs. We're in Canada. Every city will have an ice rink, right? Go there and just ask and be like, hey, I'm a photographer. I'd love to learn. Can I shoot some for free? On the basis or on the idea that you will then hire me and pay me. You like concert photography or you like going to concerts and you love bands? Okay, shoot their stuff for free for a little bit, like 1 or 2 shoots. Be like, hey, this is the value that I provide for you for your marketing and for your campaigns. Okay, would you like to pay me for that? And then that's how you go. I know a photographer from Hamilton who started shooting 1 or 2 months for free. It was a little bit tricky because you have to have a side job to of course, supply that.
Yeah.
But now he's touring to Nova Scotia, to Halifax with that band because the band loved his images. So you have to be lucky for sure. You have to be in the right time at the right spot, know the right people, which takes time, right? You need to put yourself out there and you need to be confident. Be confident in your work. Don't be overconfident in yourself. Please don't sell yourself. Please sell your work.
And what's the difference?
Selling yourself could be you may be a really bad photographer, but really nice to work with. And the other one, you may be a really skilled photographer and maybe
bad person.
I wouldn't say bad person. I would just say like you might be more business oriented than you are people oriented. Fine, because then at least you're making money. You're as photographers, we're businesses. We are small business owners.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to make money and profit to live. So it's okay to like be a bit more stubborn and be like, hey, this is my rate. But you need to understand what your rate is at first. Put yourself out there. Contact people.
Yeah.
Network. And just, again, shoot. It sounds very simple.
It sounds simple, but if it was easy, everyone would be doing it right now.
Yep, exactly. If it was that easy, everyone would be a photographer.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
But not everybody does it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that little drive of going that extra mile will 100% pay off in the long term.
Consistency wins all the time. Usually.
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dedication, consistency. Even if it's like, let's say you really want to you have a goal that by the end of the season, right? Like by December, I want to be really good at portraits okay, great. Let's boil that down even more. Okay, I want to be really good at portraits using on-camera flash, for example, right? Okay, cool. Now, every day or every week, I'm going to shoot somebody, whether it's my mom, my dad, or model that I can find, my friend who's interested, and learn a little bit every single week, every single day. I do a little bit, and that will accumulate by the end of December. Your on-camera flash, for example, will be really good.
Yeah.
Because you're learning every single day just a tiny little bit. It doesn't have to be you sit down for 8 hours because you can't do that every single day. You can't do that.
No.
Unless it's your job. But
yeah,
you have to do little increments.
You gotta break it down to small little goals.
Yes.
Yeah,
100%. I started, for instance, and I'm using this as an example for I know other photographers have completely different experiences, but I started, again, I started most of my work through COVID.
Yeah.
Most of my university was through COVID. So the only thing I had was my room. I couldn't go to work because pandemic, you're all inside. Okay, I bought one light. It was shipped to my door. Okay, I have one modifier shipped to my door. Perfect. All right, now start with that one little item. Okay, then we
Yeah.
start with the next little item that we add. Okay, we have a different modifier.
Hmm.
But at first, you learn and you master that very first basic step before you move on to the next one.
Right.
And that right there, that little bit of broken down or breaking down your goals will make
Yeah.
it so much more achievable and so much easier for you to actually uh, realize and apply the practicality to it. Because you can say, I want to be good at portraits. Oh, okay. Well,
Mhm.
what, like portraits in the studio, portraits outside, like full body, like what kind of
Yeah.
portraits are we talking
Right.
about? Like, what are you like? Break this down, and that's where you start to really,
Yeah.
I guess, get better every time on something really small, and that's how you master your craft by really taking a little piece, perfectioning that,
Yeah.
or perfection to what you're okay with, and then you move on.
Yeah, I think you also just feel good too, because you feel confident that you know that one light. Like it
Yes.
just it gives you that confidence to move on versus not mastering the one light. Now you're on two lights, but you don't know the first light yet.
Yeah.
So as long as you know the first light, you mastered that, then you feel confident. Like, oh, now let's get two lights in. Let's get
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's like such a small little thing where you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do like when I do to-do lists, I'm like, okay, well, I need to do groceries.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, what do I need to get from groceries? I make a list. And then when I go to the store, I'm like, okay, I got this. I feel good. Done. Okay, next to do task, I have that broken down as well into
Yeah.
smaller steps. And it just makes it so much more like, okay, I have to reply to emails, I have to reply to client XYZ,
Mm.
agency XYZ, I have to send out client gallery to XYZ. I could put bunch all of that under the task emails.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Right.
Thanks.
Mhm.
That really helps it. Break it
Yeah.
down into what you need to do. It's the same with photography. It's like, okay, I want to learn lighting. I want to learn setups with one light. I want to learn, let's say, by the end of the summer, I want to learn and master 5 different lighting setups with one light.
Yeah.
You have now taken a big task, broken that into chunks, and in 5 different, I guess, checkpoints that you become more confident because you're like, hey, I did that previous one. That one wasn't that difficult. Let me do the next one. And as you said, like you become more confident and more confident and more
Yeah.
confident in what you do because you keep your momentum keeps going.
Yeah.
It's
It's
not
momentum.
one big problem that you have to solve.
No, you're not trying to solve the world's problems. You're just trying to master one light.
Yeah, pretty much. Just, hey,
Just trying to master this one light. It
just
may
get
kill me,
that
but I'm
one
gonna do
thing
it.
and you'll be okay. You
Yeah.
will be okay. It's not
Yeah.
that bad. It's if
Y-
you don't
Yeah.
master it, that's fine. Take your time.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
use natural light too.
good.
It's
Good point.
not it's just really understanding how it affects your subject. It's
Sure.
I don't think that complicating a set just to look impressive,
Yeah. Right.
if the image is
Yeah.
not there, the image is not
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. For sure. Because I guess some artists they like the big set and the lights. It might be like an ego thing for people where they want the big production. It's like but meanwhile, you don't really need all that. You just need this
Yeah.
to like do the thing. But
Yep.
some people have egos where they need that to like
Yeah.
feel like important and
Yeah.
validated and all that stuff. But
I mean,
sometimes you don't need it.
yeah, you don't need it, but if I were to given the opportunity to do that, I would take it.
Sure.
But I think that that's an more of an underlying issue where it's like, well, all creatives that I've met are very, I wouldn't say insecure,
Hmm.
but they're all very in their head.
Of course.
So when they get that recognition of like, hey, you are the lead photographer, the
Yeah.
director
Yeah.
on set with this big, huge production, that's a I guess pat on the back or I guess like check mark next to your name of like you've made it, you're
Yeah.
good. we
Right.
appreciate you. Your work is good. You have made it.
Mhm.
Some photographers still do that. I would
Yeah.
do it too because it shows something, but
Yeah.
it's more of, as you said, it's an ego thing.
It's an ego thing.
100%.
It's something to put on your resume. I mean, it's just like I don't know if artists actually truly make it sometimes. I think it's just a constant evolution of like on to the next thing. Like I don't know if like artists like we like actually make it. Like I don't know what that means sometimes because it's like, well, what do you like? What is it now? Like you're done? That's it? Your career's over? Like it's a constant evolution of like your skills and like
Yeah.
your growth as an artist. Where like okay, you made it, but now you're on to the next thing. So now you got to make it again.
Yeah, now
You know
what's
what I
your next
mean?
goal? Yeah, now
Like what
what?
is it? Like you're done? That's it?
Now what? Yeah. Like, my first goal was to be like, "Okay, I want my work, my fine artwork to be in a gallery."
Right.
It got in a gallery, and I was happy, but 2 seconds later, I was like, "Well, now what?
Yeah. Like now
What's
what?
my next goal?"
Exactly.
Like,
That's
what
what
do
I
you where do
mean.
you go from there? And I think
Right.
that that's such a very interesting, as you said, like, make it. What does it mean to
Like what does
make
it
it?
mean? Like, what
Does it
does it
mean that
mean?
you're in charge of a huge production?
Yeah.
I don't know. Does it mean
Yeah.
that you know how to make really beautiful photos, but you don't care about going commercial, you just do it for fun? Does that mean you've made it?
Yeah, but you're still on to the next thing. Like you're still
Yeah,
on to the next thing. So like you're still trying to make it. Like the ball is constantly going down the street and you're always trying to catch the ball. Like it never ends.
it's a never-ending street.
You know what I mean? Like it's just like we make it it just sounds so final.
Yeah,
It
it's
sounds
really
good, but it sounds final.
yeah, it's like, this is the cap. I have reached
Yes.
my cap, and everything else
Yeah.
from now on is plateauing.
Yeah.
I can't go any better. I think that the idea,
Right.
as you said, yeah, of, like, making it is, like, again, boil that down. What have you made? Where have
Right.
you made it?
Right.
You can be like, "Hey, for example, I know photographers here are like, "I'm a great photographer in Toronto. I'm very successful here. I've made it." But if I go to another city in a different country, people don't really know me
They
and
may
don't
they may
know
not even know the
work.
person's name.
Yeah,
They may not
exactly. So,
even
like,
know,
does
like, "Who
that
are
mean
you?"
you've made it? Or
Yeah, right,
is it like a self-definition of making it?
right. I mean, you can make it in your hometown, sure, but
Yeah,
outside of your hometown, people may not even know who you are, so what does that mean?
yeah. Is that, and then that becomes more of a, as a, yeah, like, that's a personal fulfillment thing, right?
Right. It's an
Like,
ego thing. Well,
yeah,
I mean, we're all but,
sure.
like, we're all guilty of it because we're all artists. We all wanna feel the same thing, validated, recognized, all that
Yes.
stuff is perfectly normal because 'cause we're all in the same boat, but I think we're always trying to be on the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we all wanna be told, "Hey, your work is good. Hey, you're
All of
great."
us,
All of
everybody,
us.
of course, yes.
It's human, it makes sense, and
Yes, I get it.
especially as a creative, because you're creating something that's personal.
Of
It's
course.
not like, "Hey, I'm good at math because these last few 10 questions, I got 100% correct. Therefore, I am good at math."
Yes.
But creativity is like, hey, you can have a group of 20 people, 10 people being like, "This is beautiful," and 10 people being like, not for me."
Right.
Well, does that what where's the validation? Am I good? Am I bad?
Yeah,
This,
yeah, like, it's
like, please my ego, like, that is where it comes from. I think most of
yeah,
creative people, they just want validation on a
we all
deeper sense.
yeah. My
In ter
point is that you can't be everything to everyone. It's
Oh, no.
impossible, and once you do that, you're just gonna quit. Like, it's over.
Yeah. Once you
So,
become everything for everyone
you
else, you've
can't. It's
become nothing for
impossible.
yourself. Yeah.
It's impossible. So, my thing is, like, do it for yourself first. If you're happy with it, cool. Move on to the next thing,
Yeah.
because
100%.
otherwise, you're just gonna be stuck in the mud,
Yeah.
just spinning the wheels, and to me, that's just, like, just such a waste of energy. Like,
Oh,
who
100%.
cares?
Yeah.
You know, some people don't like the Beatles. Like it's like it's just you know what I mean. Like it's just you can't be everything to everyone, and that will limit your growth. And that's why people quit, burn out, all that stuff. That's what happens because they lose. Like I said earlier, like they lose that playful spark where this sucks.
Yeah. It's just become a
You know?
job to them. There's no joy, there's no creation,
Yeah,
there's no play
yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
I get it.
Becomes more of like a becomes more of like a like a disappointment sometimes where it's like I can't do the thing that I want to do and Meanwhile, that's based on other people, which you can't control. So to me, that's just like, okay, well, you gotta have like the right frame of mind.
Yeah. I
And like,
find sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, sorry, yeah.
No, I find that photographers who are like hobbyists, but really good hobbyists, are probably one of the most pure form of photography in a weird sense of like they don't do it for anybody else but themselves.
Mm,
And I can commend them for that very much so because they're able to just look at it and be like, hey, wasn't good. Cool. Great. Move on to the next thing. While as professional, you're like, oh, damn, that's bad. Does this
yeah,
impact my income? Is this, does the
yeah,
client not like this? Like,
yeah.
is
You have
this,
other thoughts. Yeah, you have other thoughts
yeah,
in your head. Yeah, of course,
yeah.
of
I
course, of
think if you
course.
keep moving it and keep learning and keep being playful with it, I
Yeah,
find like amateurs or like not amateurs, but like semi-professionals probably like they're and I don't want to make an assumption, but I've seen more happier people, like happier photographers who are like amateur slash semi-professional
yeah,
because they don't have to deal with any of like the business side of
sure.
photography, which no one talks about how rough that is and how much that is not taught to anyone basically, and you kind of just learn on the ball. So
Yeah, it's quite the ride, isn't it?
it is it's a learning curve
It's
for
quite
sure.
the ride.
It is a learning curve and quite the ride indeed. It is yeah, when you assist or when you make some money with photography, they're like, "Yep, send an invoice." And you're like,
How the hell do I maybe how do I write an invoice?
"Invoice? How do I do this? Like, where do
Yeah,
I put in my thing? What do I put in it?
you're
What information?"
Googling. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was Googling for an hour how to make an invoice. I could have
Yeah.
just taken the Google template. This was before
Yeah,
ChatGPT, all right? This was
right.
before AI.
Got it. Got it, got it.
And I'm just like Googling how to write an invoice. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what
Yeah.
do I have to charge for? What do I not charge for? What is
Mhm.
included? What is not included? Is this okay to charge for? Is this okay? And then the more you do it and the more you're in the business and the more you talk to people, you're like, oh, I've actually lost out on so much money
Yeah.
because I didn't know what to charge for.
Yeah. That sucks, man.
Yeah, it does.
That sucks.
But is I like to tell myself that knowing what I missed out is a good learning curve for knowing what to charge next
Right.
and knowing what to do for the future. At
Yeah.
least there's that little positive spin that I tried to put on any lost income that I'm like, well, at least I know now next.
Well, it's better to do it earlier than later,
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather
you
make the
know?
mistakes now
Make
than when I'm
mistakes now versus in 10 years, 15
yeah.
years.
If I'm making those mistakes still when
Yeah.
I'm 10, 15 years in, I'm like, I did not learn. I didn't do anything.
Ye
I stayed the same.
yeah.
It's not
Yeah, it's hard to, us as artists, like, it's hard to value your own work, like, the price that you put on your work, it's like, "How much do I charge for this?" I have no idea, but I like it, and it's very subjective, like we were just saying, it's very subjective to everyone, like, "How much should this be charged?" And then you're asking people on Instagram, whatever, it's like, "Oh, just follow this, like, template, this, like, price breakdown," and, but again, that's for them, not for you, like, your price breakdown may be different because 'cause you're doing different things, right? So,
yeah, 100%.
you know?
I've had people, like I've talked to some photographers being like, "Hey, what do you charge for this?" Or like, "What do you charge for this?" I've heard
Right.
this person's rate and that person's rate, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I know top photographers are charging this, and I know like really good professionals are charging this, and know that starting photographers are charging this. I would like to think that I'm like in the middle somewhere. Okay, so do I then charge it at XYZ?
Who
Okay, now
knows?
my yeah, or you're like, "Hey, my work has gotten in a gallery or my work I've shot for XYZ client. Does
Mm,
that mean that now my work increases because of the value and the I guess recognition to it?" It's a very interesting
yeah,
thing that you have to and a dance that you kind of have to understand. A
yeah,
lot of negotiating and a lot of
sure.
marketing.
With who? With yourself or with the client for price?
Both, I would say. I think it's a good point, good question.
Yeah, yeah, like,
Negotiate with yourself because you're always going to undervalue your own work
yeah, it's true, very true, yeah,
and talk and negotiate with the client after that. Once
yeah,
you are comfortable with saying charging like 400 or $500 for something, you're
right,
like, okay, that is what I think is my value, and that is what I think this should cost.
right,
and this is something that I would pay $500 for this service or for this package. Cool.
Right. Right.
But if the client doesn't want to pay that, does that mean that my prices are low, or does that
No,
or
it's
too
just
high, or
it's
does
the
that
wrong
mean
client.
client? Yeah, exactly. Like,
Wrong
what's
client.
the exactly? So you have to find your value as a photographer, as a creative, regardless of what you do,
Of
whether it's
course.
painting, whether it's makeup artists, hairstylists, whatever. Find your value that you have added
Yeah.
or that you have. And if someone is not willing to do that, that's more than okay to say no to jobs that you feel are not going to be beneficial to you.
Mm.
Or if you know, like, hey, I know this client wants to like get headshots for like XYZ. I know I won't do it for that, but I know somebody else who might. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to send a client to one of my friends or fellow photographers that I know. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do this because the budget is so, or I would like to, or the company is just not my style. It's not the direction I want to go into, but hopefully somebody else will do it.
Yeah.
And it's more than okay to say no.
It's huge to
Figure this out. Yeah.
know your value and kind of stay firm on that.
Yeah. Especially staying firm.
You gotta stay firm.
Yeah.
If you're really serious about like having that as like your career,
Yeah.
it's like
100%.
you want to be known as this kind of like tier photographer, and
Mhm.
you don't see like Mercedes lowering their prices because they want to attract like Honda Civic drivers. Like, no, you want a Mercedes, you got to pay this much.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's the same kind of like concept, or you want this kind of level of work, you got to pay this, right? So
Yeah,
it's the same
exactly.
kind of
Once
concept.
you when you really see a lot of these high-end photographers in Toronto who are incredibly talented and their work is amazing,
Yeah,
and when you break down their costs,
yeah,
you're like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's
sure.
that makes sense, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, there's value in there, and I can see why that is reflected in XYZ."
Yeah,
And there are, people who are a bit more lower tier photographers who are comfortable with that and they're okay with that.
hmm.
And then you see their work and you're like, "Yeah, I can this
Yeah,
somewhat makes sense." Yeah.
sure.
You really have to be comfortable with
Yeah,
the val or the monetary value that you can
yeah,
gain from it without being like, well, like you sometimes you have to take a low end job. I get it.
sure.
You got to pay bills,
Yeah,
but you got to also respect yourself and be like,
yeah,
this is my value. This is my price. This is what it costs from my
yeah,
end to even get equipment. I'm not even breaking even on this or XYZ because I had to rent stuff. So I find that as a photographer, be confident on the business side.
yeah.
You can always go down in price.
Could you could
Hmm.
depends on how long. Depends on how low you want to go. It's like even still, like even like photographers being like are we valued in like the industry? Like are clients or agency valuing the photographer these days? Like you got AI coming on and all that stuff. Like, are we as professionals valued still?
That's a very good question.
Like
I think this is yeah, just I think we talked about this right before we went on.
yeah,
It's like, hey, like AI can replace a lot of us
right,
if we don't know how to one combat it or two use it to our advantage,
yeah,
right? And if the value of photography is being diminished to user generated content, and
right.
I don't want to like badmouth that because that's a
UGC, man,
yeah,
UGC.
UGC this, UGC that.
Apparently, people are making millions of dollars off it. Apparently, I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly. So it's a job. It's a legit
I'm in
thing,
the
and it's
wrong field,
awesome.
man.
It's
Yeah,
great, but it is to the detriment of other professions.
sure, sure.
Maybe that is just the way that society is moving, and the way that um, I guess commercial and advertisement has changed to like, hey, catch their attention within the first 3 seconds because that's all you have, rather than like, hey, they're gonna watch this advertisement because it's put on primetime TV during a spotlight during a show everyone's gonna watch.
Yeah,
Right? So you don't have to necessarily catch their attention in the first 3 seconds. You can wait it out a little bit. But now with everything being so fast, 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 that user generated content has become the staple of,
yeah.
I guess, advertising,
I
marketing.
suppose. Sure.
It's to the detriment of others, sure. Does that make photographers less valuable or even more valuable because we provide something that is more artistic.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I wish I knew and had an idea for it and knew the direction of that, but
Yeah.
it's still so fresh that you can't really I can't really understand it. Maybe there are
Yeah.
others who do.
Yeah. We don't really know quite yet, but I think it can be used as a tool. But I mean, it's gonna replace the lazy photographer where they don't know what they're doing. It's gonna replace them.
Oh, 100%.
But for like the people that have a business and have a clientele and are known, they're still gonna want GJ to come in the shoot because we need this kind of shot done. Like they're still gonna want the person to take the photo.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You
You
still
know what I mean?
want someone to like I would use like as photographers, I think we need to use AI to do that to our benefit, as in like Photoshop has like
Yeah,
beta AI, which is really good.
sure. Yeah.
Um, I would say AI and automate your emails, automate your DMs, automate everything that you have with AI. It makes it so much
Yeah,
better.
exactly.
And then that way you as a photographer are still able to do your creative work
Yeah, yeah.
because I think indeed that as you said, they're still going to want the creative vision of a person.
Yeah. They're still gonna want the idea
Yeah.
from a
Yeah.
person.
And AI can come up with ideas, sure, but
Yeah.
it's not as human or it's
Yeah.
not as personal as someone
Yeah,
who came up with
exactly.
it themselves and has very as we said earlier like stubborn in their idea and they're like hey this is what I think is good
Yeah.
rather than AI giving you like here are 5 different prompts and ideas from all around the
Well,
internet.
yeah.
You're like
But they're all like those
thanks.
prompts are just I don't know, they're just so like blah. It's like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
but what's the idea?
Yeah, like break
You
it
know?
down like
What's the
being
idea? Like, what are we doing? What's the lighting setup? What's the location? What is the model gonna wear? Like,
yeah.
makeup, all this stuff, and you know,
Yeah, I
sometimes like ChatGPT, it's just like burnt toast. Like, okay, you gave me this idea, but now what?
yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, great. So you gave me an idea, that's awesome, but there's no detail.
Yeah, it's more of like a direction, not even idea. It's
Yeah,
more of a direction to go down. You can use it as a direction to get the idea if you're really stuck sometimes.
yeah,
But I think us as artists, like we're always gonna have ideas. Like some may come slowly, but there's always gonna be something that we can fall back on to like, no, I kind of have this vision. Or you kind of look on Pinterest or you saw something else where it kind of generated another idea. Like there's always something to like get an idea off, right? Because
yeah.
like I read something the other day. It's like, well, there's no like ideas aren't original anymore. Like everything's been done. So it's just a matter of taking the idea and making it yours.
And I think that that's what makes it original.
And that's what makes it original because now it's your take on that idea,
Yeah,
right?
100% all ideas have already been if you've had thought in the
It's been
last 5,000 years of human existence, someone else
yeah,
has probably had it too.
yeah, of course.
It's
And because we're constantly bombarded by like images and all this stuff, like we probably have seen it subconsciously or consciously in the
yeah,
back of our mind. We probably have seen it. And then one day it just kind of pops. Oh yeah, I have this idea. But you saw it like last week on like TikTok.
yeah. But I think that like between human and AI ideas,
Yeah.
it's like human ideas can stem from the weirdest things that you'll see, or like the most
Huge.
obscure things.
Yeah.
Like for instance, I use this as an example, like Mark Rothko paintings
Hmm.
of just color fields.
Hmm.
Okay, it's beautiful paintings, a little more abstract and postmodern, but color fields, and I'm like, okay, I like these colors together.
Yep.
I'm going to use these colors or that color scheme in my photo shoot.
Yeah.
I don't think that AI would necessarily make that connection, being like, okay, those 3 colors like smashed together in that kind of, I guess, ratio of color fields. I don't think AI is going to be able to think like, okay, now we're going to do that. I don't think
No.
AI would be able to come up with impressionism. I don't think AI would
No.
be able to come up with surrealism or
Yeah.
Dadaism.
Yeah.
These are all human inventions or human
Yeah.
creations that have then shaped art. And AI will be, I think, a hurdle
Mm.
that artists have to get over in the similar sense that at first, when photography came out, painters had to adapt. Painters had to think, well, I can't make a realistic painting of somebody, because you can take an image within seconds, a little bit of chemical, a little bit of
Yeah.
chemical mystery right there, and you have an image.
Yeah.
You have a realistic image. Okay, now how do we adapt and make creative work that challenges photography? And I think that AI is going to be that similar situation, but on a completely different scale, on a completely bigger scale, because it uses the internet, it uses uh, uh, the whole world's history of art and creators and people that have made something.
Yeah.
Okay, will it be a bigger challenge? Sure. But I think that as creatives, we will be okay, like as adaptable. And if you're persistent and if you are not lazy and
Yeah.
willing to use the tool to your advantage, I think we will be okay.
I'll take your word for it, man. We'll see it this
I'm
time
saying
next
this with my fingers
year.
crossed, so don't
Yeah,
take my.
yeah. I just
Uh,
watched iRobot, so we'll see what happens with that.
I hope we will be okay. Let me
Yeah,
rephrase this. I hope
yeah,
we will be okay.
yeah. As like the iRobots in the corner go and say this now with
Yeah, yeah, like that.
I will be.
So, there's a whole robot right there in the
Yeah.
corner. Let me done
Well,
saying
I just
AI is great. Yes.
well, I just watched Elon Musk launch a whole bunch of robots. So I'm like, that was pretty
Uh,
freaky. That was pretty freaky, man. But
that was it was interesting to see him catch the rocket. That was cool.
yeah, that was
The
cool too.
robots, that is
It
dystopian.
was like right out of iRobot, man. Like the
That is
whole like
so
scene was like,
dystopian.
where's Will Smith? Like, what is this? It was wild. It was so crazy, man. Well, we're up against the hour, man. So I just want to say
Yeah.
thanks again for coming on. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed this. Thank you so much for
pretty
reaching out. I
love your
really
passion.
appreciate it.
Love your
Thank you.
love your passion, man.
Thank you
Maybe
very much.
we'll like leave on this note. Like, what's like the one thing you're looking forward to, like the rest of the year?
The rest of the year, I
Yeah.
will be shooting a few more test shoots with
Okay.
models.
All right.
It's a lot more creative, a lot more fun.
Cool.
I look forward to just create with not necessarily do paid jobs. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
It comes and goes, but I think I really want to push myself working with different people. We're
Cool.
doing more test shoots
All right.
and pushing my creativity to a more maybe a different direction.
Okay.
Play with it a little bit more
Mhm.
and just have fun
Right.
and enjoy it and get
Yeah.
better
And
every
get
single
better.
day. Get better a little bit by next. Yep.
Okay. And if people want to contact you, they should just contact you through your Instagram if they want to like work with
Yeah.
you
My
or
Instagram is GJ Verellen,
yeah.
one word.
Link
It's on the
link is in the
screen.
description.
My email, my website is all
Yeah.
gjverellen.com. gj@gjverellen.com is my email. So if you do want to contact, if you want to send, hey, this was informative, great. If you said, hey, this was meh,
No, I thought
also
it was
great.
really
At
good.
least somebody watched. That's great.
I thought it was really good.
But yeah, no, if you want to contact me, Instagram is probably the easiest. That's what I'm on the most actively. Send me an
Cool.
email if I don't respond to DMs. I don't check it super often.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's the way to contact me in
Yeah.
case there's somebody here
You
interested.
never know, man, who's watching. I mean, could be now, could be next month, could be 3 months from now, but you just never know who's watching when.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's just internet. So
Put yourself
it
out.
never goes away.
Yeah, put yourself out there is the one
Yeah.
thing. And
I
this is
like
one of
that.
the things. Yeah, have conversations, and Paul, like you've been doing this for a while now, having
Yeah.
creators on talk about different things themselves, their work, different aspects of the industry. So doing this type of podcasts and making it so accessible is really a benefactor to our industry. So thank you so much. I really appreciate
Oh,
that.
you're welcome. Yeah, I just think sometimes you don't really know the person behind or in front of the account. Sometimes we're just scrolling, but we don't really know who this person is. Like, okay, GJ, cool. Let me just double tap and move on. But I don't know who this person is.
Yeah, there
So
you
and
go.
there's a lot, and plus in Toronto, like there's just so many of us doing, photo and video and painting and sculpting. And there's just so many just artists in this city where it's like I don't know who this person is. So
Yeah, it's very easy to get lost in the crowd. So
super easy, super easy.
to get to
But
know somebody a little bit more on a personal level is a very
yeah,
beneficial thing for
Yeah,
sure.
it just adds, it just, I mean, yeah, you're on social media, but there's also a person here. Like, it's like, make sure, just remember there's a person behind this account. It's not just images where, it's
Yeah.
just there's a story here, and there's a passion. So
Yeah.
I really, really, really love the convo, man. I'd love to have you back on at some point
Thank you very much.
and
I would love
chat
to. I would
about
love
other
to.
things, man. I think we just scratched the surface, to be honest with you. But thanks everyone for watching, listening, wherever this thing is, and links are in the description of this podcast. And we shall see you next time. Have a great evening.
Thank
Peace.
you, Verellen.